What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So anyway, let's get into it. So I've just heard the news about a day ago now that Jaime Munguia has it's just come out that he's failed a PED test. So yet another fighter failing a PED test, and this is one of these things that it's almost becoming, it's like a disease, it's like a cancer in boxing, that this PED thing where, Conor Ben, Conor Ben, we got through somehow, but there's all these different, we've had Tyson Fury a few years ago, we've had Canelo, we've had all these different fighters at various points, unfortunately failing these PED tests, and Munguia the latest in the stream of these guys. And I was just thinking about really it's becoming a bit much, and I was just thinking earlier on in the day about what would be a suitable punishment, because you look at Ryan Garcia, and as I watched, the Addy and G-Man earlier on, their podcast, and they brought out a good point that when you look at it, it's very unfair, because you look at the case of Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia comes in overweight, fails the PED test after the fight, gives Devin Haney an absolute beating, sort of gets away with it, gets caught, gets banned. But then the irony is that both guys spend exactly the same time out of the ring. So you got Devin Haney spending about a year out of the ring. You got Ryan Garcia also spending a year out of the ring. You got Devin Haney returning on that card in Times Square. Ryan Garcia also on the same card, with the plan being to do the rematch if both win. And you think to yourself, how is that justified, that the guy that failed the PED test and the other guy that didn't, that was the victim of the whole thing, the same time out of the ring, the same, they're basically they've spent the same amount of time out of the ring. Garcia definitely got paid for the fight, so you could in essence say, well, how is that even like any punishment? And we know that there's not really, that's one of the big problems with boxing, that there's not really been the sort of proper punishments meted out. We've had guys sort of banned for a year and then it be backdated, but when we look at these fighters and guys that have failed, it's not really cost them that much of their career. So and boxing's one of these where there's so many governing bodies, different organizations, different, you got WBC, WBA, IBF, you got WBO. So you got all these different organizations, and there's not like a sort of world governing body that's in charge of everything. It's regional, and it's different countries, etc., etc. So yeah, I kind of think that I pretty much agree in part with what Ade Oladipo was saying on their podcast, which is that what they should really do is immediately you test, test in a cycle before the fight multiple times, then you test after the fight, and if there is anything suspicious, if there is any test failure, then you withhold the fighter's purse at that moment. So whenever there's the test has been failed, fight's taken place or whatever, you withhold the purse of the fighter, and then if the fighter if it comes back as negative, they pass the test, then fine, give them their purse. But if there's an adverse finding and it comes back as positive, that the banned substance is in their system, then you withhold the purse and you say, well, look, this you've got this adverse finding, you've got this illegal substance in your system after competing in a fight, and there you go, your purse is now withheld. And I think that's just kind of a rough idea of it. But I think either that sort of thing, or you say, right, 5 year ban, something of that nature to me, because I think it's a rife thing in boxing. We're seeing far too many guys failing these PD tests, and you're in the ring. When you're in the ring, even as an amateur or pro, you're risking your life every time you get in that ring. So I think it needs to get stricter. There needs to be a clamp down in boxing, and I think I'd be with that idea that Ade was proposing there on the podcast, that what you do is you withhold the purse. If there's any dodgy finding, there's anything that's not that's not right, any sign of a banned substance, you withhold it. And if it comes out that they've it's positive, they've got this banned substance, then you withhold the purse, you take the purse away, because boxing's too dangerous of a sport to sort of be played with, and to have to be allowing any sort of performance enhancement drugs. I think you've got to clamp down on it, and either you take the money, you take the purse, or if you're not going to withhold the purse, what you do is you fine them, at least half of the purse, or you fine them 3/4 of the purse. But it has to be something significant, and I think making it money, making it a significant thing, wherever you hold the purse and you don't give them the purse, or you take a significant portion, you split the purse in half or something like that. I think that'll be a good discouragement to sort of put a full stop to this, because I think it's too easy. You look at, not to pick on Ryan Garcia, but he's just one example of, look, he's done something that's not right. He's done something that's not legal, taken all these banned substances, and he's been treated like a champion. He's been able to come back and get a big payday and be looked at as a hero, and there's multiple other boxers who have been able to do that. And I think there's got to be serious penalties, financial penalties, there, or you take them out of it for 5 years. Because I think all this, if you give a superstar in the sport sort of a 1 year ban, let's say you give a Canelo type guy, or that sort of status of guy, a 1 year ban, it's not really doing anything to them, because they fight once a year anyway, and they already got it made. But if you withdraw money, if you fine or you take away a significant amount of money, it's going to make everybody, and you do that across the board with every fighter. You fail a test, we'll take your money back, we'll hold your purse, or we'll fine you most of your purse. I think that's a way to sort of, at least one idea, one way that I think this problem can be tackled, because I think it's happening too much. And you look at this example with Jaime Munguia. Now, his opponent knocked him out in the 6th round last time. Now he's come back and he's beaten Surrace, and he's done it on drugs. And how does Surrace know that he wasn't on drugs the first time, even though he won by KO? And again, we don't know. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think about this. What should be really a suitable punishment for failing PD tests. Let me know your thoughts. Until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out.